Hi guys, welcome back. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you all my February books, all the books that I read in February and also all the new books that I got in February. The pile is quite huge. I'll show you all the books that I read in February, and it does not look that impressive but I did get new books, so the whole pile is much more impressive. So anyway, without further ado, I'm just gonna dive right in and share with you the books that I read this February in no particular order. So the first book that I will be sharing with you all is A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khalid Hosseini. Now this one I actually read for a class that I have in university, New Literatures in English, and I really loved this book. It was so bittersweet, and by the way, this is my first Khalid Hosseini book, and I can definitely say that I am going to be picking up the rest of his works as well, with a bit of hesitation, of course, because this was a heartbreaking book, and I know that the rest of the books are just as sad, and this one was beautiful. It's a love story, but it's set at this political backdrop which is not at all peaceful. It's in Afghanistan, so the Taliban and everything. We see the different treatment that the women are meted out. First, it's very liberal at times, and then with the Taliban it becomes so very conservative. And we have two female protagonists in this book. We have Mariam and we have Layla, and these two women go through so much, and then their husband Rashid is a douchebag, and I hate him, and I wanted to kill him with my bare hands when I was reading this book. But it was very good. I made notes throughout the book because of course I was reading it for class, but then again this was a book that I really loved. And if you want me to do an in-depth review for this book, because I have many notes, I would love to do it. So you just need to comment down below in the comment section if you want a full-on review for this book. The next two books that I'm going to be talking to you all about are actually poetry collection. The first one is Glorious Shadows by Krishna Sawant. I rated this 4 stars. And then we have The Midnight Scrolls by Fatima Pocketwala. I rated this 3.75 stars. Now both of these were quite interesting. They dealt with different issues such as self-help, love, depression, emotion, and all of that. They were very good. I'll just read out the synopsis for both of them. Glorious Shadows is a collection of delicately crafted words and secrets that may not be revealed in broad daylight. It's about the voices in one's head, loneliness, self-love, broken promises, and forbidden thoughts. Using free verse support allows emotions to express themselves in their raw, naked form. So this one, like I said, was a 4-star. And The Midnight Scrolls is a collection of poems that expresses a range of emotions, all that a person may experience in his or her life, be it love or joy, or hardships or betrayal. Now this one was also sort of like an album, which I really liked. There are different pictures in here which are great. So it gave another depth, another layer of meaning to all of the whole narrative. You could say the different poems, the different emotions that the poet wanted to rouse in the reader. These were quite nice, and they provided much needed relaxation to me while I was reading all of the heavy stuff in between. So great books. On that note, I also picked up the Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. This was my second to Neil Gaiman. The first one was The Sleeper and the Spindle. I got this copy from Bloomsbury. Thanks a lot. I really loved it. It's got amazing stories, because the most obvious ones we know of Norse mythology are those of Thor and Loki. So this one was quite great, giving us a view of all the different other gods. I read The Rape Trial by Brisha Ghoshal. Now this one, despite its huge size, is actually a really quick read. I remember I read like half of it in just one sitting and then continued with the rest in another sitting. This was an okay read. It deals with very serious issues, so trigger warning if you think that it's a very sensitive issue for you to read about. When it comes to rape, we all know that the believability of the women in this aspect the woman is cast as persons against. So this one was a great read on that. It has mystery, a sort of thriller vibe because of the way the plotline goes as. So I would definitely recommend you all to pick it up. It's quite great. I liked how it went, but I think that sometimes the story dragged a bit and some portions were quite unnecessary and it just didn't make sense. I mean, the story would have gone all right even if those parts weren't there. So yeah, I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Moving on, the next book that I picked up was 16 Stormy Days, the story of the First Amendment to the Constitution of India by Tripur Daman Singh. I butchered that name, but yeah, this was quite an informative book. It was very eye-opening in the sense that it really made me re-examine history and what I knew of it and the Constitution of India. This isn't a revisionist history, but a clear snapshot of the first tensions between constitutional values and political priorities. Nehru emerges not as a villain, but as a hard-nosed politician, a must-read. It was a good book, very informative, very dynamic, to be truthful, and I definitely recommend it to you all. I rated it 4 out of 5 star, and I have quite a bit of a review on it, which I'll be sharing in the links down below, so you can definitely check that out. So the next book that I have to tell you all is Agnes at the End of the World by Kelly McWilliams. I wish I could show it to you because the cover is very, very nice, but I have this sort of two materials that the author sent to me, which I really like. It's a very beautiful cover. This is the bookmark that comes along with it, and I'll just show you the cover. This is this one. I don't have the book with me right now because I actually sent it to Gayatri to read because she's part of this blog as well. Nevertheless, coming back to the book, this was my first 5-star read of 2020, and I absolutely love the book. It is a mixture of, you could say, dystopia, a bit of fantasy as well, but there are also spiritual overtones to it, and I read it at a point of my life when I really needed a direction, especially for my physical and emotional and spiritual well-being, and so it was really, really great. It really taught me the power of faith and everything. It was definitely a 5-star read for me. I have a post written on it, which I'll link down below as well. You should definitely check it out. It's coming out very, very soon, so yeah, you should definitely get your hands on that book as well. So the last book that I am going to talk about is Swimming in the Dark by Thomas Jodorowsky. I suppose that's how you pronounce name. This was a review copy that was sent to me by Bloomsbury, and firstly, if you loved Call Me By Your Name, then this is definitely the book for you. I really, really loved it. It was another 5-star read. I'm just so glad that I got 2 5-star reads in February. It's very short, and the cover is going to be very nice as well. I think I might get a finished copy for myself just because I really loved it so much, and I really dog-marked a lot of the pages. I'm a person who dog-marks pages which I think are very important or very deep, so there are quite a few dog marks here. It's very good. We follow this guy called Ludwig and his evolution. It's a coming of age story, and it's also a love story. It is also a story which is set in the background of which is very tumultuous because it's those years in Soviet Union when Poland is going through a lot, basically. However, despite it all, the prose is very, very beautiful, and I don't have enough words for it because it's amazing. It's mind-blowing. I read it in one day, I think. Yeah, and it was very, very great. I cannot assert how much I loved it enough because I definitely will be picking this one up soon. It's just so beautiful. The story, the emotional development of the characters, the love story especially, and it's so much like Elio and I forgot his name from Call Me By Your Name, but if you love that book, definitely pick this one up as well. So that's it for my reading wrap-up of February. I read 11 books in February, so I didn't read as many books in January. I just read 9, which I think could have been better, but then January was a really busy month. I got sick, I had my college function, so yeah. And so in February I read 11 books, so I think that just evens it out, total 20 for the 2 months that I have had. Let's move on to my February haul. So the first book that I got in February was, well, not the first book, I'm not going by any particular order, but it's A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. Now this is the first book in the All Souls trilogy, and I watched the, not Netflix, but the series, and I really loved it, and that's why I decided that I just have to pick up this book, because the romance was off the charts, the chemistry was off the charts, the magic system and everything, how everything worked in that world, the politics, it was great. I don't think I'll be able to summarize this book really well, but it's a world of demons, vampires and witches, and they're all competitive against each other. I'll just read out the blurb. A world of witches, demons and vampires, a manuscript which holds the secret of their past and the key to their future. Diana and Matthew, the forbidden love at the heart of it. So yeah, Diana is a witch and Matthew is a vampire, and it's great. I really loved the series, and the series just this first season is out, yeah, and the first season, as far as I know, it covers all the events of book 1, so I want to at least be done with book 2 before the season 2 comes out. So that's the plan. I'm hoping to read it very, very soon. It's quite humongous, but I think with the sizzling romance in it, it won't take me long. But if you have read this book, don't forget to tell me your views about it in the comment section below, because I know many people love this book. There's this huge fandom surrounding it, and from what I've seen, at least, I really loved it. So this might be 4-star, 5-star even, who knows. But I haven't read vampire romance in quite some time, the last being Vampire Academy and Twilight and so on. So yeah, very excited to read this. And then I also got another book, Henry Miller's The World of Sex. This is the Penguin Modern Classics edition. I am actually collecting these editions because they are just very, very pretty, and I think they're very aesthetic. I don't know much about it, but I have the gender studies class this semester, so I am reading up on quite some minor works. The Second Sex, Room of One's Own are just 2 of them. I'm also planning on reading Judith Butler's Gender Performativity, whatever she wrote on that. So I'll just read out the blurb in this one as well. Henry Miller's bold, explicit novels scandalized readers and remade the literature of his day. In this uncompromising literary manifesto, he argues that sex is at the heart of his writing because it is at the heart of life, a vital force as essential as bread, money, work, or play. So, yeah, I'm excited to read it, understand what all the fuss is about around his work, and then I'm also hoping to pick up Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn after I read this and I analyze what I think about this book. So yeah, that's the second book, and then let's move on. I also bought this is a second-hand copy which I got in a thrift store. The Giant Book of Murder: Real Life Cases Cracked by Forensic Science. So I think that's it's very easy to understand from the title itself. So this, let me see how many murder stories there are, because I still haven't read it. No, classic me. So how many? I don't know, 15, 16. There are many stories, and these were all the highlights of the day back when these crimes were committed. This was very, very novel and never thought before in their times. Sometimes astonishingly accurate, sometimes dangerously flawed. Forensic science is the cornerstone of modern justice. Read these compelling trials and see how it all began. So basically, it's great. I am actually hoping to read it very soon. Like, since it's a collection of different stories, I do not need to have a certain continuity while reading them. So they are going to be nice reads sometimes before I go to sleep. I really like watching horror, thriller, and all that before I go to sleep. Everything except realistic horror, like Open House. If you have seen that movie, that one really creeped me out. So anyway, yeah, I'm hoping to read this and then maybe give it to my brother because he's very interested in it as well. So yeah, that's it. So the next book that I have is Labyrinth by Kate Moss. Now, when I saw this in the shop, I just knew that this was in the same series as Sepulchre. I think that was a book. And anyway, I have that in hardcover. It's a very beautiful book, and only after I bought it did I know that it's not the first in the series. So I was really pissed off, but then when I saw this in the shop, I just knew that I had to get it if I wanted to continue reading the rest of the series as well. I'm not sure which number this book stands on in the series Labyrinth, if it comes before Sepulchre or after Sepulchre, but I just know that they're in the same series. So yeah, I got it. This seems to be a Grail story, and yeah, it's going to be very interesting, I think, especially because I've heard that if you love Dan Brown's Robert Langdon series, and this series is really good. I'm not sure, I read it or heard in someone's video previously, but yeah, that's the plan. That's why I picked it up. The other book, Sepulchre, I bought it because it was just very pretty, a hardcover edition I got for very cheap. So yeah, this one I bought recently, and I'll definitely tell you how it goes for me. I'm not sure, I don't know anything about it, to be very honest. Yeah, 3 secrets, 2 women, 1, I have no idea what that is. I hate it when people put the sticker up on the front. It just spoils the whole look. So anyway, speaking of Labyrinth, I got an email. Never mind. Speaking of Labyrinth, I also got another book which goes by pretty much the same name, and it is The Rose Labyrinth by Tatiana Hardy. A centuries-old secret, a dangerous revelation. Can the truth change the world? So I think this is very great, especially because when we see books that feature secrets that were kept in like really olden times, and then the ancestors find them out, and it's very much like the Da Vinci Code, if you have read or even watched the movie by it was by Dan Brown. It was very, very great. And yeah, before his death in 1609, the brilliant Elizabethan spy and astrologer John Dee hid his most astonishing secrets, trusting his descendants would one day bring them to light. That time has come. In 2003, Will Stafford inherits a strange legacy from his mother, a key and an ancient script with an enigmatic note. Deeply intrigued, he travels Europe seeking answers to its riddles, unaware that someone is following his every move. Back in London, Lucy King becomes entangled in Will's cryptic labyrinth as its mysterious twists take her from France to New York and from literature to myth. In search of its hidden treasure, she has never been closer to the truth, nor in grave danger. Sounds interesting. I'm very excited to read it, so I'll definitely tell you how it goes for me. Okay, so next up I have The Linguistic by Sebastian Beaumont. It's a chilling story of the aftermath of a love triangle and the complexities of self-discovery, therapy, and reconciliation. From what I've heard, it is great. The next book that I have is The Warrior Queens, Bodacia's Chariot by Antonia Fraser. Lovely cover. As far as I know, it's about the different women leaders in war, an inspired evaluation of women leaders in war. Antonia Fraser's warrior queens are those women who have both ruled and led in war. They include Catherine the Great, Elizabeth I, Isabella of Spain, the Rani of Jhansi, and the formidable Queen Jinga of Angola. With Boadicea as a definitive example, her female champions from other ages and civilizations make a fascinating and awesome assembly. So it's going to be very, very interesting. I think this is more like a study on the various women, if I'm not wrong, and I'm not sure if anything has been fictionalized or not, but if it's more like biographies. So we'll see how it goes, and I'll definitely tell you all about it. If you have read this book, you should definitely tell me what you felt about it, so I'll check it out. Moving on, we have The Loves of Faustina, a wickedly comic novel from Ireland's most controversial writer, Nina Fitzpatrick. So, in the autumn of 1967, a cloud in the shape of human buttocks appeared over Krakow. What it all means for Poland is anyone's guess, but for one demure bookish psychology student, the vision is to prove portentous indeed. Within hours, the virginal Faustina is off to the Europa Hotel to bear her own shapely bottom for the Soviet occupier. And so begins a riotous erotic odyssey that takes Faustina up and down the social scale and across the political spectrum of communist Poland in its dying decade. So this one is going to be probably very interesting, and the time period is same as Swimming in the Dark by Thomas Jadrowski, so it will be quite nice. And I think this book will also portray, shed light a lot more than the other one on the political situation of the book, and as well as identity crisis, especially what it takes to be a woman in those times, a woman as bold as her, probably. So yeah, that's that. Next book I have is A Fort of Nine Towers by Qais Akbar Omar. I have not read any of his other books, but I have been recommended this author because like after I was discussing the book A Thousand Splendid Sun with my teacher, she did specifically mention this author, saying that if you liked Khalid Hosseini, you should definitely pick up this author's works as well. So yeah. The first true life memoir of growing up in Afghanistan, Qais Akbar Omar was 11 when a brutal civil war engulfed Kabul. For Qais, it brought an abrupt end to a childhood filled with kites and cousins in his grandfather's garden. One of the most convulsive decades in Afghan history had begun. Ahead lay the rise of the Taliban, and in 2001, the arrival of international forces. So this is probably going to be great book. I am very excited to see it, and especially because the year 2001 is mentioned. Now, I read this book, a poem, The Stones of Bamiyar. I think you should definitely check that out if you don't know what it is about. I won't give you any spoilers, but yeah, definitely check that out. Check out the poem, and this one is on my list. Another book that I am very excited to read is Atonement by Ian McEwan. I watched the movie first and I loved it so much that I decided that I just had to buy this book and read it. It's just so tragic and beautiful, and I loved it. And on that note, I want to give you guys a video recommendation. On YouTube, there is this edit made by someone. So search for Lana Del Rey's Goodbye Kiss. Is actually a song by Kasabian, but she did a cover and she does an amazing work. This person, whoever created that video, has merged her cover of this song with snippets from this movie, and it's just very beautiful. And I think that the song really meshes well with the story. It really brings out the meaning, the tones, the overtures of all of the events that happened in this book, and this has some great acting, this movie. Now, since I have not read this book, I cannot possibly compare, but I think that movie is one of the best movies ever. I don't know what my opinion will be after I read this book, so yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that. I perhaps might do a vlog on it, read this book and then watch the movie again and tell you how it goes for me. But yeah, we're almost at the end, so I'll go over the remaining 6 books really quick. The first one is Awakening by Kate Chopin. Now, like I said before, I have a gender studies class this semester, and this one is going to be it's one of the books that I have to read for this course. So yeah, I'm very excited to read it. I have started just a bit. I'm just a few pages in, and it's really meaningful. Everything. Kate Chopin has also been claimed to be one of the early feminists. So although her work, her beliefs may not really resonate in today's modern world, it's very interesting to see how it all started. How feminism movement started, especially in all the women rights authors, and how they asserted, how they searched for freedom. For instance, in this book as well, we have the character, the protagonist Edna Pontellier and her strive for freedom, both intellectual and physical. The Scotsman describes this book as lyrical, restrained, enduring, a writer ahead of her time. So, really excited to see. This is also the Vintage Classics edition, and I think it's from Penguin Random House. So, very, very excited to see it, read it, and I'll tell you how it goes for me very, very soon. The next book is another Penguin Modern Classics, and it is Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. Now, I do know that this book follows various generations of the same family, but admittedly, I do not know much about it. This is another book that I need for my course this semester. So I'll be picking this one up soon, and I'll tell you how it goes for me. It is set in Colombia. Gabriel Garcia Marquez's great masterpiece is a story of 7 generations of the Buendia family and of Macondo, the town they have built. Blending political reality with magic realism, fantasy with comic invention, the book is one of the most daringly original works of the 20th century. Also, the winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature. It's a bit thick. The font is a bit small, so I am apprehensive a bit, but we'll see how it goes. Another book that I bought in the Penguin Modern edition is Sammy by Audre Lorde, a biomythography. This is more so an autobiographical novel of Audre Lorde, who is the Black lesbian mother warrior poet. It's very, very interesting, and I am again reading this one for my gender studies class as well. Many of the books that I have shared with you all today are actually for my course, but I'm genuinely excited to read this book and especially contrast it with Awakening, because both feature women characters and their strive for freedom, both sexual and emotional and physical, everything. And so contrasting these against each other is going to be very interesting, because this is comparatively modern. This is 1930s, and this is not 1930s. This was first published in 1899, so beginning of the 20th century, but this one was like mid 20th century. So to see how the things have changed for women, which I doubt as much, it's going to be interesting comparing these two books against each other. We're almost at the end now, really this time. I have Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. This is a proof copy from Bloomsbury. Now, this book deals a lot with race issues. I'll read out the synopsis here. Amira is a 20-something babysitter wondering what's next. Alex, a well-intentioned employer, just wants Amira to feel like family. But a shocking moment will reveal a surprising connection between the two women, one that threatens to undo them both. Now, this has themes of racism, women empowerment, feminism as well. And I think this is going to be very, very interesting. I have read quite a few reviews on this book, and many people have said many great things about it. So I'm excited for it, and I'll see how it goes. And if you have read this book, don't forget to leave your opinions down below, even if they are unpopular, #unpopular opinions. But yeah, definitely excited to read it. I'm excited to read all of these books, as you can probably tell. I'm also a bit worried, wondering if I will have enough time to read all of them. But yeah, all right, we have reached the second last book, and it is The Godchild by Nana Oforiatta Aim. I'm not sure what it's about, but this might be interesting. I'll just read the synopsis for this one because I don't know how to describe it any better. You think foundations are old-fashioned. You think cultural legacies are old-fashioned. People come home, they resolve the arguments, they meet and begin to know themselves and each other again. They learn. The elders pass on all the knowledge to the young. I learned almost all I have at Afai. I learned almost all I know at Afai. You know this. They tell us we have no history, that we are trees that grew from the earth with no roots. And here we are declaring it to the skies, stretching our branches to where they should not be able to go. You call this old-fashioned? I think this has to do a lot with assertion of one's national identity, ethical identity, racial identity. I'm not sure apart from that. I might also be wrong, but yeah. I'm intrigued by this book because the synopsis doesn't tell me much, but it tells me just enough to get me intrigued, and I think that's the point of the whole of any synopsis. But yeah, this is it. And the last book which I want to share to you all is one that was sent to me by Bloomsbury, and I want to say that I'm so very grateful that they did, because this is the Crescent City, and I have been really excited for it. They also sent a beautiful bookmark, which is just amazing. House of Earth and Blood, Crescent City. Now, this is the first book in a new series, adult fantasy series by Sarah J. Maas. And what's interesting is that this fantasy series is set in the contemporary world. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the author brings about all of these fantasy elements and merges them with the modern scenario. It's also a humongous book, really huge, almost my whole hand, but yeah, I am very excited to read it. I'll just share the synopsis with you all. Bound by blood, tempted by desire, unleashed by destiny, Bryce Quinlan used to light up Crescent City, partying all night in the clubs where the strict classes of angel, shifter, human and fae merged into a sea of beautiful bodies, and then a demon murdered her closest friends. 2 years later, when the supposed killer is behind bars but the crimes start up again, the city's leaders command Bryce to help investigate. They assign an enslaved fallen angel, Hunt Ethelard, to make sure she does, but as Bryce fights to uncover the truth and resists her attraction to the brooding angel who shadows her every step, she finds herself following a trail that leads deep into her own dark past. Now, I'm very excited for it, especially because Briss is fae. I think she's half fae, half human. And then we have Hunt, who is this angel, fallen angel, and I'm sure he has wings. So this reminds me of Briss. And I'm trash for all of Sarah J. Maas's fantasy series just because I think they're really great. I'm quite excited to see how it goes, how she meshes the fantasy with the modern world. And this is huge. I'll probably start it soon, and I hope to share my review with you all soon. Do check out my Instagram page on the 21st of March, because I am putting up a post on the 21st, which will basically be my feelings on this book, however much I'll have read till then, whether it's half or 3/4 or just a few pages, or even if I've completed the book. But yeah, I've got very high hopes for this one actually, to be very honest. So I'm hoping this doesn't disappoint, but yeah, I'll see you all very soon.